Hi everyone, and welcome to the Anne Braden Institute for Social Justice Research YouTube page. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and to follow us on Twitter and Facebook to keep up with announcements about upcoming events. Recently on November 4th, we had our annual lecture with Dr. Carol Anderson. Dr. Anderson is a professor at Emory University, but has recently been in the spotlight because of her article with the Washington Post called "Ferguson Isn't About Black Rage Against Cops, It's About White Rage Against Progress." In this lecture, Dr. Anderson talks about how our criminal justice system allows this undetected white rage to continue to hinder black progress. In our article, Dr. Anderson talks about the redrawing of black districts and voter ID laws in the South that happened after President Barack Obama's election, the white riots and hostility towards students after the Brown versus Board decision, and the sanctioned labor that happened after the emancipation of slaves. Dr. Anderson touched on three big components of white rage, a phrase she popularized that makes it so successful. The first is that white rage is carried out through our criminal justice system. Second, white rage is used to undermine African American rights. And third, white rage is carried out through a system that makes it hard for anybody to defy it. While Dr. Anderson focused on the story of Dr. Sweet and his experience with white rage, we can see this going back throughout our history and even in Kentucky. Our very own Anne and Carl Braden, who we dedicated our institute to, had their own issue with white rage. To give you a brief background on the inspirations to our institute, Carl and Anne Braden were Kentucky civil rights activists. They were well respected and knew many people throughout the community. A couple that they happened to meet were Charlotte and Andrew Wade, an African American couple. After World War II, Charlotte and Andrew Wade were like everybody else and wanted to relocate to the suburbs, but because of Jim Crow segregation laws, they were unable to. So Andrew and Charlotte Wade went to the Bradens asking if they would help them buy the house. Being the courageous activists they were, Carl and Anne Braden acted as a front and bought a house for the Wades out in Shipley. The Wades didn't even get to enjoy their new home for 24 hours before white neighbors found out a black couple had moved in and started telling the whole community. The Wades were welcomed to their new house with a burning cross in their front yard and their windows blown out. White Rage Exhibit A. 6 weeks later, while the Wades were out, their house had been blown up with dynamite. White Rage Exhibit B. Now, not only did the Wades not have a home, but the Bradens and 5 others associated with them were arrested. After being connected with movements led by the Communist Party during a hectic period of McCarthyism, the Bradens were charged with sedition. Carl Braden, who had been looked at as a ringleader, had been sentenced to 15 years in jail. The rest were awaiting trial, while Carl had served 8 months and was released on bond when the Supreme Court decided that state sedition trials were invalid. Now, the Wades had no home, and the Bradens were looked at as outcasts. In this local drama, you see how Dr. Carol Anderson's 3 points come into play. First, you see how white rage is carried out through our criminal justice system by not arresting the people who destroyed the Wades' homes, but instead arrested the people who were trying to help. Next, we see how Jim Crow segregation laws undermined African American rights by denying them decent housing. But the most important part that came from this story was to not defy white rage. If you were a black couple thinking of doing the same thing the Wades did, would you? Of course not. Their house was blown up. And if you were a white ally hoping to do the same thing the Bradens did, would you? No, they were just arrested and charged, and now they're looked at as social outcasts. This whole system is used to discourage defiance and to let the status quo stay the same. So as we can see, white rage is all over this case. And while we have made advancements, as we continue with our progress for social justice, it is time we start asking ourselves if we're really dismantling this system of oppression and this white rage that continues to hinder black progress. Thanks for watching, and continue to keep up with us at the Anne Braden Institute for Social Justice Research. Bye!